that dream is green. And I don't mean material things. Freedom to the land, child, woman, and man. As we take up for what we stand. Better days and better nights. As we stand and unite. We're one and the same. Why is it so hard not to point and to blame? Better sheet, get our houses in order and we'll see the peace. There are steps that we must take if we wanna see.
I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us.
The sake of us, the sake of us.
I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. No more failing, telling me beneath. What a beautiful moment, and a sight I can't wait to see. Even if I miss it, at least I wasn't part of the mission. Changing lives of men, women, and children. All glory goes to He that causes us all to be. Oh, and if they're thinking we can, we show them that just as long as we stand. A monument, we the people can't be broken as long as we stay focused. I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. For the sake of us. I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. I see my people rising, yeah.
Shalom, shalom, lekulam, peace to everyone. I am Nasika Amuna, and I have my beautiful guest and sister here.
Shalom, shalom, lekulam. It is Yasmin Shamar of Bait Shamar. Shalom.
Pray everyone is doing well today. So we have a very important topic to us that we want to discuss today. Does approach matter? So this is something that has been talked about, I think, a few times in the so-called Black community in general, and then just the awakening as well as far as our approach. Not even when people are teaching, but teaching and just putting out videos that are supposed to be informative for the people. Shalom, shalom, and welcome in, Toda, for tuning in, and shalom to your household. So we're going to get to that topic, but you all know before we even get to our topics, we like to put out, we like to do little games, as we call them, icebreakers. So while we get the icebreaker pulled up, I like to reintroduce myself for people that may not have watched our show. And so I'm going to ask you, my sister, if you could please reintroduce yourself, your relationship to me, and introduce yourself to those that might be new watching.
All right. Shalom again, and just shalom to those who might be just tuning in. I am Yasmin Shamar, again, of Bait Shamar. I am also the little sister to Nasika Amuna. We are the Fab Sisters. We have been the Fab Sisters for a couple of, I won't say a couple of years, for some years now. I have to do a count back and see how long, but we have been the Fab Sisters. So I'm Lil Fab. To some who might know, and to some who might be new, again, I will go by Lil Fab. Nasika Amuna will go by Big Fab. And yes, we are here with our Fab Sisters, Fabz-Chat. And yes, that is who I am.
All right. Toda Rabah for that introduction. So in our icebreakers, we like to play games, and then we like for others to be able to interact with the games that we play. So this one is called 50 Questions. We usually go throughout the questions after we talk on our topic. And yeah, we get these answers. So, do you collect anything?
This is for me to answer first.
I mean, yeah, you're gonna answer it, then I'm gonna answer. I'm trying to.
Okay.
I have to think about it honestly.
Right, I do
Do I
too.
collect anything? Do I collect anything? Man, there is a collection that I do want to start. So I was looking at some, like, and I'm not even a materialistic person, you all, but there's these little designer purses, really inexpensive, and they're like the shape of a keyboard. There's some that are the shape of a coffee cup. So that's one of the things I would like to do, is collect little purses with really interesting designs. There was one like the shape of somebody, like a suit. So that's one of the things I want to collect in the near future. What about you?
I think if it was two things, so I like the little China tea sets, not even the ones that you can necessarily like use to like eat anything off of or like drink from. I already have two, and they are both decorated like white and purple. I already have two little sets. One was gifted to me by my sister Nasika Amuna, and another was gifted to me by our late Aim as a keepsake. And so I would like to collect more little tea sets. I have two. I mean, I don't know if that's considered a collection, but I would like to collect more of those. I think they're just the cutest. I feel like the smaller they are, the closer they are to my heart. Like I don't know what it is, but I think they're just so cute. And I like collecting lip glosses. Like I don't know if that's
Oh, that's valid. That's
I like
valid.
collecting
Yeah.
different types of lip glosses. So yeah, I guess those. I mean, I know so like, do you collect anything? Well, it didn't say one thing, so those are my two things. So.
Shalom, Malka. Shalom. Pray you and your household are doing well, and welcome in. Right now, we're just doing our icebreakers before we get to the actual topic. And the first question is, do you collect anything? So my sister stated that I think lip glosses and then tea sets. And for me, I said that there's something I want to do in the near future, and purses. I want to like get little designer purses. Again, not to talk bad like Gucci and all those type. No, they're just little designer purses that are the shape of like keyboards, coffee, jukeboxes. They're so cute, and I want to start collecting those. And eventually, when I have we do have a little one, pass it down. Pass those collections down. So, oh, okay. So it says, please introduce your sister. Oh, she introduced herself for the first go round. So can you introduce yourself again? And then we'll read the comment.
Okay. Shalom again. Or shalom. I'll say kind of for the first time. My name is Yasmin Shamar of Bait Shamar. I am also again the baby sister to Nasika Amuna, and also her best friend. Okay, shalom.
Oh, can you say how old you? Well, if you want to put your age out there, that will tell how old I am.
Oh, shalom. It is nice to meet you too. Yes, I am her 30-year-old sister, 30-year-old baby sister. So if I'm 30, she's older. Not old, but she's older. So yes, I'm her 30-year-old. Hey, I'm not saying like you're
corrected it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a comment. It said, yes, I used to collect magnets from places we visited. Also like collecting unique mugs. Oh,
I'm sorry.
I didn't even think of that. Mugs. And I was like, as a kid, we didn't.
Oh my goodness.
Remember, as children, we didn't collect magnets. We took magnets out of the shower curtains. we took them out of the shower curtains.
Yes, I used to love magnets. I know it probably wasn't the best thing, but you know how we'll make the TV make, that funny color? Oh, yeah. Remember we used to like doing that too. It was like, that's not a good thing. That was not the best thing. But yes, unique mugs. I don't know. I wasn't even thinking of that. I wasn't either. Like I have a different coffee mug. I think for every day of the week, I can drink it out of a different.
She does.
Mug, so
her mugs, but they're so cute. I had one that broke during travel. It was so cute. It had like XOX on it, like and it was red and it was white. Kane. Oh, Kane. I know that name. But yes, we are going to go ahead and get into it. And then also, you all can do an introduction for yourselves if you want to. Of course, you can keep it brief and as reserved as you wanted to, but you can introduce yourself, especially if you plan on being a regular listener. We love to interact on here. That's what we love to do. But if you just like to listen and you want to stay in the background, that is fine also. But we love the interaction. So we just did our icebreaker. Now we're going to get into the topic for today. Does approach matter? The thing that brought about this discussion is looking at the approach that a lot of people take on social media. And I'm just going to keep it in the realm that I'm talking about, predominantly women. I've seen a lot of women take an aggressive approach when it comes to sensitive topics within the so-called Black community, and even sometimes within the Hebrew or Bnei Yisrael, our community. And it comes off very, very rough sometimes. Again, I know growing up when you were getting reprimanded, it wasn't always a soft voice. It was a lot of times your parents having a somewhat of an aggression, I would say, but they did it out of love. I just, through my observation, I don't know if all of these approaches are actually needed. Like growing up, a lot of times the mother was supposed to have the softer approach. And then if you didn't listen, the father came and just, what's the word? He came not even as backup, but he just came and reinforced. There we go. He reinforced what was said. The rules that were already put in place, he reinforced it. And he, a lot of times, was that figure that he didn't even, a lot of times, like when I got in trouble, my father didn't even have to raise his voice. I see you over there. I see your brain is over there just firing up. I could already see it. She's like, yeah, what would happen since you know what would happen?
All he would have to do was look at her and she would start crying. He didn't have to say anything.
That's all he would have to do. He would just look and I would start crying. And I know we're not children anymore, but I think the approach has a lot to do. I would say the approach, I believe, also can be influential with how young girls, young women, and even older women will be able to pick up how to pass along information. And the approach matters. I'm not saying that every approach is supposed to be, all right, sweetheart, all right, honey, let's do this, let's do that. But I do believe, especially now with having a leadership position, I understand that my words can either be taken very heavily, or my words can be taken for granted. But at the end of the day, what I say and what I do will be a lasting impression for many. Whether you are and Shalom Mahubi. Shalom Mahubi. Whether you are a public figure or you are a leader, when you're bringing out something, it's influential nevertheless. And I choose the route to bring it forth with zeal, but I also work on my tone when bringing it out. Our community has experienced more than enough of being yelled at, of being talked at, and even talked to in a condescending way. Some people grew up with that in their household. Some parents didn't know any better. Some parents were ignorant, and some parents just didn't even have the desire to have a loving heart. So this is what a child has had to go through all their life as a child. And then in their adult years, they've been figuring things out. So I believe that as women, our approach shouldn't sound identical to a man's approach. And that is just my opinion with certain presentations. Not every presentation, because again, certain presentations do call for more zeal, but just being mindful of that, you know. But I could go on. Oh, go ahead, my sister. And if you all have any comments relating to this topic, please post them and we'll bring them up on the screen for extra discussion. What's your take on it though, my sister?
Kane. So I will say that I agree. That approach, definitely matters. Um, I would say, that approach matters. Something that I remember, that we encountered, from our personal experiences in the walk, like, how it's like, okay, like if a child is getting in trouble or getting in trouble as a child, oftentimes before the stern voices came, we were warned. I will say that you get pre-warned, about, okay, so if you're being told, do not touch that glass vase. And then later on, it's like multiple little fingerprints on the vase. And it's like, okay, at that point, once you've been told a couple times, that's usually when the voice comes out with different approaches. Sometimes the first impression or that first approach is usually one that's like attacking, it's just like, I won't even say it's stern, it's aggressive. And it can tend to be mean. And it's just like, okay, I would say, especially if something is like text out instead of like spoken, if you don't know what tone a person is coming in, like, then it'll just come off as like, oh my goodness gracious, this person is literally fussing at me, like, like they're just mad at me. But with that approach, if somebody is doing something, I'll say ignorantly, like they're doing it like honestly, but is they're ignorant and they don't know what they're doing, could either be wrong or they could be, misspeaking something. There's a way that I believe approach can be taken to where it's like, okay, it can be taken where I believe it's in a place of shalom. If it does even have to come in the sense of like, correction or like helping somebody to understand something, then it's like, okay, there's a way to be able to have that approach again without it, again, I believe being like you're barking at somebody and it's gonna, make them run away. It's like, I mean, just kind of almost like I would say related to sales. What makes the best salesperson is somebody who knows how to speak to people.
Oh my goodness. Exactly. Can you say that again? And then can you read her comment?
Yeah. So I'll send the thing that makes like the best salesperson is one that knows how to speak to people. They get their sales by knowing how to, kind of lure people in. They'll talk to you. And it's like, oh, I love what you're wearing. Oh, the weather or, this. Next thing you know, they're talking you into a sale, but it's like, it's not like they're, even for those that's not tricking people, they'll talk you to where it's like, you know what? I enjoy talking to you. I do want to invest in what you're doing. And so, but yes, I will read it by Ima Sade. Did I pronounce that correctly?
I believe so.
Okay. She says, your speech can be authoritative without being condescending, belittling, or rude. And I absolutely agree.
I absolutely agree.
Absolutely agree because, oh my goodness gracious.
Shalom to Chief Prince in the building. Toda Rabah, Toda Rabah. And yes, again, like this is to bring a balance to it. Life, I mean, I personally believe now, especially on my journey, that life is all about balancing things out. And like my sister said, you have to know how to talk to people. Some of these posts I pull up, like even the simplest things, like one of the things I was watching, it was a video, and this young lady, she was telling other young women, of course, in the so-called Black community about their hair, and she came out, like her video started off was like, you don't have to put weave in your hair. She was like, get up, braid your hair, do your hair. And what did she say? She was like, if I can do it. No, she didn't even say if I can do it, you can do it. And I wouldn't pull up these videos for that purpose of, showing their content, because I don't want it to look like we're, sharing it and doing tit for tat with the videos. But what I will say is the video came off aggressive. And I think I'm pretty okay with being able to discern when people are being helpful and when people are just coming from a place of where they're being condescending. And again, because if it took you time to get to where you are, learn the craft that you have, and it took you time to perfect it, then that's only natural that it's going to take that person time, especially if they're just starting to learn that craft and perfect it, and not just perfect it, but feel comfortable in it. I feel like if you're at a place where you're comfortable, it's easier to be condescending to people because I'm like, I'm there already. And if I can do it, you should be able to do it. And I had this conversation with a few sisters the other day saying a lot of our mothers and their mothers didn't know what to do with their hair. They permed it or they put a relaxer on it. It broke. Some of these sisters had long hair. Some of them had thick curls. But when you do things to our hair prematurely, you can mess up the curl pattern. And I had really no idea about that until I one day had to cut off damage from my own hair. Your curl pattern can change if you cut your hair a certain way. That's why I would say if you know what to do with your hair, then do it. But if you don't, go and seek professional help when it comes down to your hair, so you just don't mess it up. You don't butcher your hair. But I also understand the sensitivity with that topic. You know, with sisters learning how to do their hair, especially curly patterns. You all the what was it? What's the word I'm looking for? The remedy for thick hair back in the day was a perm or a relaxer. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. Oh, it's too thick, let's perm it. It's too thick, let's relax it. You know, so we have to stop pretending that a lot of us didn't come from a place of people not knowing how to do hair and learning with trial and error. And I say that because with sensitive topics, sometimes when people have it together, they feel like it's okay to still come at a group of people who don't have it together in a manner that is either belittling or what's the other word? Just mean-spirited. Mean-spirited. You know when someone is being sincere, and then you know when somebody is just being what we call it nice, nasty. And that's not the way we should be. As women, especially if we're getting a point across to people and we're supposed to be loving and we're supposed to be trying to give out information that we want to sell, as my sister said, then we have to have a method to it. Some people are just comfortable with coming off like they're going off on people. And I'm like, can you talk to me like I'm an adult? I'm going to talk to you like you're an adult. Like some of these videos I'm watching, I'm like, would you have a conversation with someone like that to their face? So that's the question. So we're talking about, you all, does approach matter? Does approach matter? Some people's method when trying to reach the masses on a public platform, they think that because it's freedom of speech, and I'm predominantly talking about women, and that we do have a lot of our people walking in ignorance. And I just feel like sometimes the approach is wild. The approach is wild, you know. And for me, it's like little girls are going to see this. What are they supposed to think when they see an approach like this? Is this normal? Is this supposed to be the normal way we approach people? So, yeah, after my sister, we're going to go and do some more icebreakers. But you have anything else to add on to this topic?
Kane, just to add on to the importance of approach, I feel like approach, you know, how we approach people is important, or even how we want people to approach us is important, because it's like if a person posts something ignorantly, or I would even say like there are people that post things like emotionally, you know, like you say, you know, not wanting to go and what they call like coddling people. And, you know, if you're saying something that's kind of out of the way, like, you know, it's like they're saying something where it's like, no, this person is speaking from hurt, you know, this person is speaking from disappointment, or maybe they are going through something where it's like they just do not mentally feel like themselves. And I feel like that's very important, you know, to approach people. It's like maybe they just need somebody that's going to be able to like peaceably speak to them, like still, you know, in a way, again, that's authoritative. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Authoritative, you know, and considerate, where it's just like, hey, okay, you know, you might not be feeling your best, but make sure you're considerate, you know, of how you know, how you're making your open approach, whether you're making a video or making just a post about it, being able to, you know, speak to them again in a way to where it's like, okay, approaching them with the understanding of like, they have something that, you know, they're going through, and right now they're just kind of lashing out at people, or it's like a cry for help, you know, and they're putting it on a post, and it's like they're trying to see who's going to be considered enough, you know, to hear them. Because again, it's like people, they might not post about what they're feeling or what they're experiencing, but it could be the motive behind what they do or what they're saying. And so I do believe that approach matters, because it's like they could just need, you know, a soft rebuke, They could use some soft words that's like a correction, like, okay, now, what's going on? Because like you have something going on with you that's, causing you to respond like this, like, or, again, just wanting them to be considerate. Also, like when you put this out, you can cause people to approach you in a very aggressive manner because all they see is like you ready to fight and they're willing to fight, So I do believe, again, just the consideration of how an approach is done, or almost like also just kind of thinking of the motive of somebody posting something. If I don't feel like I can post something with like and I'm just speaking about me, if I don't feel like I can either put up a singing video where it's like, I'm feeling the best, I don't force it to do it, because I'm like, if I do it and it's just like I feel like if it comes off the wrong way, or if I choose the wrong song, on that day or that time, I feel like that would also cause, a different approach. Again, that's how I see it. That's how I feel about it. Cause I'm like, okay, I think about it like the movie, and I'm gonna finish up with this. Bambi. Thumper was like, it's like his father or his mom was asking, was like, what did your father tell you? If you don't have anything nice to say, it's like, don't say anything at all. Of course, it's a cartoon, but it's like, if you don't feel like you can be provoked, I believe, to say something that could be, again, correcting in a way that's going to be what that person needs, then it's just like, okay, is it even worth saying anything? And with that, I yield.
I definitely understand. I'm going to, let's do this the right way. There we go. Just like that. So our second one on the list, you all, for our icebreakers, something you could talk about for hours. Something you could talk about for hours.
I feel like there are quite a few things I could talk about for hours.
Yeah, something I could talk about for hours. Well, I mean, I think we do it a lot. Sometimes without even knowing it. But I would say our literature, this way of life, the Hebraic way of life, the set apart way of life. I could talk about it for hours, even if it's building or questions or just things that we could do better to have better futures for those that are under us. And not just better futures for those that are under us, but even those that are currently older and those that are around our age, because not only what we do affects those that are younger, but it also affects our current state. So I could talk about the development of our people for hours.
Okay, and I can definitely agree. If I had to put it almost like into subtopics, like I could talk about like linguistics, history, it's like culture. What is culture? What does it mean? Do we have it like, what is it? What does it look like for us? I mean, we kind of do it. I feel like like I said, we do it on a regular basis. And we'll talk like, okay, what we enjoy doing, when it comes to whether we're watching something that's like historically based, and we're like, oh, that reminds me of, how it says they would have these people, or, things like that. So I do, that I could definitely talk about again, especially when it comes to like understanding language and, just what makes a nation, just, it's like all the wonderful and intricate like puzzle pieces that come together to make, a nation of people, and, again, their language, like the attire, what do we like to do that really, that really sets us apart. And so I could talk about that, for hours.
That's good. Anybody else? What is something you could talk about for hours? What is something you could talk about for hours? If you have anything in mind, again, if there's nothing you can think about right now, that's fine. And we may be able to come back to this one. But what is something you could talk about for hours? Cultivating our people's mindset. That's one for me. All right. The word, recipes, or a good book. Okay, that too. We love to cook over here. Right. I've seen some of the things you all cooked on videos, so I like that. All right, so we have one answer. Anybody else want to land back off that? Or a good book? I'm trying to say the last really good book, I don't even want to say it was a good book. It was an interesting book. I think one of the most interesting books I've read was a book called Habibi. That book really gave me a different take on just certain other cultures. I could go down the, rabbit hole of what it was about. I read that book when I was, I don't know, was I already graduated?
Mm-hmm.
I already graduated. Okay. So
Yeah.
it might have been maybe a year of me graduating high school. It was a book called Habibi. And of course, it had to do with a certain sect of Muslims. And there was a young so called black boy in it who he fell in love with a young woman who was sold at a young age and married off to a very, very old man. And he saw what men were doing to her. And out of ignorance of his own bodily functions, he castrated himself. He castrated himself so that he would not potentially hurt her. And that book just, I don't know. I would have to go back and get all the full context of it because I don't fully remember it. But I do know that he showed her kindness all throughout that book. And I believe he ended up being either a servant or a slave later on. But that was a very interesting book. That was a very interesting book, you all. I said, yeah, I'll never forget that book. I'll never forget that. And I really don't understand the full motive of that book either. That is one thing that we'll look at because castration in no way form is something that I would promote. And so with some of these books, especially being in the certain sections they were in, I feel like the library when they were remodeled, there was a lot of motives being put into where they were putting some of these books. Remember that when the library was remodeled, you all, they were putting books in the children's section that were very, very questionable. Very questionable. So yeah, that was interesting. I just had to put that out there. All right, but if we don't have any more answers to something you could talk about for hours, we're going to go ahead and let's go to number 3, and then from there we'll move on. Number 3, what kind of people annoy you? At first, we were going to go with some different questions, because again, we try to keep things as respectable as possible. Except I didn't think that this was disrespectful because in our literature that we read, Maish and I, on our services, the Supreme King gives us an order and even a foundation of what type of people we should even be around and what type of people we shouldn't be around. So some might look at this and say, what kind of people annoy you? Well, I don't know about that. Nobody's supposed to annoy us. Yeah, nobody's supposed to annoy us, but there are some things that if you are trying to strive after righteousness and people are doing the complete opposite, that can annoy you. So if you don't have an answer for this one, I can go ahead and answer if you don't have an answer.
Oh, I have an answer. I have an answer. Again, respectfully, I will say the kind of people that annoy me are people that are inconsiderate. And just kind of like examples is like people that are inconsiderate at the store, that are inconsiderate, I would say, towards our elderly, those that are inconsiderate towards children. I would even say people that are inconsiderate, towards themselves. In consideration, I feel like it can really go a long way, just like consideration can go a long way. And I find it annoying because it's just like, how can, people be comfortable being selfish, like something like holding the door open for someone who's elderly or even somebody I won't like, and not just to limit it to the elderly because people feel like they can be inconsiderate towards people that's like a peer, that's like around their age just because they're not elderly. So I would say, people that are inconsiderate annoy me again because it's just like, how can you be that like, selfish or not feel like other people around you like matter enough for you to want to, again, just do like just a simple thing. You're glowing.
Hold on, y'all. Yeah, you talk. Let me close this window.
It's like people just don't like a simple act. Even if you can't necessarily, buy someone's groceries, if you can just do something as, simple as like smiling at people or, holding the door for them if they drop something, things that's like that. I find that again, like simple acts of consideration, they go a long way. There are times where I'm able to hear my Ish when he's at work, and he'll have like elderly people, he'll have young people. If they can't find something, that they're looking for, they'll go to him and ask, and they're just like, "I need help. Can you help me?" And he's like, of course, no problem. And so when he helps them, it's like it brightens up a part of their world because they're just like, "Oh, you took the time to help when other people wouldn't take the time to help them." And I'm just like, that in consideration is like why would you treat people like that? They ask for help, and it's like, especially if it's a person's job to help, like, then why not? I'm like, why are you working a job where you literally have to deal with people if you don't like dealing with people? To me, that doesn't make sense. But I would have to say that because it's like, yeah, being inconsiderate. That again, that annoys me because it's just like rude. Why are you rude?
I was actually on that same vein. Those type of people annoy me. People who are rude, don't know how to say, or just won't say excuse me. Like you say, inconsiderate. Like I'll see elderly people. If I'm at the store, I feel like I have hawk eyes when it comes to elderly. I'll be in the store doing my thing, and if I see an elderly person and they're on a walker or they're in one of those pushers and they can't reach something, it takes me 2 seconds to walk over there and ask them, "Hey, can I get this for you?" It just takes 2 seconds. That's all it takes. And they could either say yes or no, end of the day. But I've seen people, I was in the aisle with a few people, and this older lady, she was older. I'm talking about older, not 60. She looked about 70 something, and her little self trying to grab a case of waters. And I went over there. I said, "Excuse me, I can get this for you." I went and got the case of waters, put it in her buggy. And there was, I don't know if they were a couple or brother and sister, a young man and a young woman right behind her. And I'm just like, y'all gonna watch her do this. They just looked at me as I walked by. I didn't look at them mean, but I'm just like, you guys were right there. You could have turned around and asked her if she needed help. Because if it was my grandmother, I wouldn't want my grandmothers out there. And I got a lot of grandmas. I got a grandma in Illinois. I got a grandma in North Carolina, a grandma in Texas, and a grandma in South Carolina. I would not want my grandmothers out there picking up a case of waters because nobody's around, And then it just takes a little time to turn around. Even if you can't get it, hey, let me get somebody that can help you. You shouldn't be picking this up. But some people, I don't know, it's not in their mind. But yeah, that's what annoys me. Rude people and mean people. If you're just mean-spirited, now let's get to the core. Let's work on it. But if you don't want that to change and you're just okay with being mean, I don't like that. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and move on. Anybody else have anything? What kind of people annoy you? And I believe if we acknowledge some of these things, we can bring a change about it, because we shouldn't just be, in this community together and annoying each other if that would be some of the cases for people who have an annoyance by somebody that's close to them. You can acknowledge it. Okay, this one, those who don't take accountability. I hear that. Those who don't take accountability. Uh-oh. Can you all hear me?
I can hear you. Your video was chopping up. I wasn't sure what's going on. It was moving a bit choppy, but I can hear you.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened, so I'm going to turn my camera off and then try to turn it on. All right, I feel like that's better. Yes, those who don't take accountability. I hear that. We could all use the little, what do you call it? a little positive push on making sure we take more accountability for our actions or how we behave throughout the day or how we could have handled a situation better with the brother or sister, with the elder, things like that. We can, if we stop growing in those areas because we don't believe we need to grow, then that's when I believe we've messed up.
Mm-hmm.
What was that saying? Be careful how you stand lest you fall. You know, we heard that a lot growing up. All right. Back to, does approach matter? Okay, so and I just want to give everyone a little not synopsis, but a little bit of what we're talking about kind of in a nutshell. This topic came about because I've noticed that more so women, more so-called Black women, are starting to take more of a aggressive approach when it comes to being public figures on social media, whether they're talking about hair, they're talking about Black women's behavior, or they're talking about truth. They're taking an aggressive role to it, you know, and even a more condescending role. Like they're talking, and when they're saying like, you Black women need to this, you know, I'm like, last I saw in the video, you were a Black woman too. You know, when you start taking yourself out of the picture and you just start addressing in general people, and you're not saying, you know, a lot of you need to this, and you're just addressing the whole bunch, but you're taking yourself out of it, you need to understand that some people are going to shut you down the first when they hear you this and you're taking yourself out of it. You know, that's not, again, we can do better with our approaches. We have a lot to work on as a so-called people, and that's not just the statistics of everything that's being written out. That's also things with the inner heart as well. Our approach, how we talk to people, how we interact out in public, how we interact at home. You know, if we had an account of 7 random people who may have run into us, it could have been a bad day. And I get it. We do have bad days. I'm not saying you have to be smiling in everyone's faces, but at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a respect thing. You still have to respect those that have not shown you any reason to give them anything different. And if we just had a random 7 people say how they were able to account our behavior, would that be good? Would that be good, or, you know, would that be bad? And I mean, I would say ask yourself, if you had to think about 7 random people who don't know you personally but might have come across you, what was your behavior towards them? You know, could they say, well, person was kind of rude, person was kind of mean, you know, I went to say excuse me, they just looked at me crazy, or, you know, I'm in a line and we're all trying to get out of there shopping and things like that. Our interactions also have a lot to do with that, you know, because if you can get on social media and you can talk about an approach and you can talk about these things and you can say in an aggressive manner, then you also have to realize there's a balance that comes with that. Because if you're like that on 10 every day, how is that okay? Because my thing is, would you want somebody talking to you like that? Would you want somebody talking to you like that? And then my thing is, would you take correction like that with somebody just, I don't know. It's not even that they're yelling you all. It's just some of the approach, you know. Some of the women are getting up here and they dropping F-bombs and they dropping all these type of things, but they're trying to liberate our community. And I'm just like, we've heard enough of yelling and enough of hardness, some women all their lives. So let's bring it down a bit, you all. Let's bring it down. And I wanted to bring something up. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to my sister, because you all know I like to bring up statistics when we're talking about certain topics. So I'm going to go look up something. I'm going to fact check something while my sister takes the floor.
All right, Toda, Nasika. Just to, you know, be in agreement with everything that was said. And that beeping that was heard in the background was my bread maker. Sorry, y'all. I forgot I wasn't muted. I usually try to mute it when I know it's on this countdown because it'll beep and it probably comes through sharp. So that was my bread maker. Yeah, like you say, like some of the approaches that were done on social media are done in person, like you say, I feel like, you know, we encounter people that have those type of attacking approaches. It's like if people want to come and ask you a question, like I'll say, like when me and my Ish are out at the store, like we'll have people that will come up to us and ask us, either about the zitiot we're wearing or the fringes that'll be on my Isha's garment. And it's like sometimes like you'll know if people are coming to ask you, if they're approaching you for the sake of like assuming some things about you. It's like, are you a Hebrew Israelite, or are you this, are you a part of these people, are you part of those people? And so our, I would say, kind of back approach, or like our response, I feel like it's going to have a major it has a lot to do with how, I'm sorry, y'all, quiet my alarms in the back. I was cooking. Let me mute it. I think it's done. I'm sorry. I have food going. So when my Ish get home, everything will be ready. But again, it's like having people, approach us and, or approach my Ish while he's out, and they will sometimes ask him, but they will ask him in a way that is like, it's like he's being interrogated. I'm sorry. Please give me 1 second. I don't know why. Give me 1 second.
Okay, it's okay. While you do that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up something I searched on Google. If you all have, better findings than me, I have no problem with looking at those findings, but I just typed in something to see how accepting individuals are when a message is being brought forth. Now, again, I don't want to confuse this with how our prophets gave out information to our people concerning us as a nation, because they had to do what thus said the Supreme King, thus said the Most High, and they had to tell it how the Supreme King gave them to tell it. But I'm just talking about for individuals, what we call it. I want to call it laymen. Because I don't want to just say quote unquote average people, but I mean just people who don't have titles or positions that are just putting out information that are not prophets. We're going to look at something here. Okay, it said key findings on communication styles. Assertive is most effective. Assertive is clear, direct, and respectful communication, balances your needs with others' rights. It fosters trust, collaboration, and high acceptance of instructions. Aggressive, short-term focus, characterized by yelling, demanding, and dominating. This style focuses on winning. It often backfires by creating resentment or breaking down trust. It's only typically effective in high-stake emergencies such as safety threats. Now, again, this is more just talking in general, communicating styles. But when we think about communicating, a lot of times on social media, when people get in front of a camera and they record themselves, it is still a way of communication, because they are taking what they think, they're taking what they have processed or what they think is applicable for people, and they post it as if they were having a conversation. Like some people post it as if they were having a conversation with individuals. Mm-hmm. All right, so we just read that for aggressive. Now, subtle, passive. Now, this one is subtle, passive, aggressive, low acceptance. Again, people do this one too. I wasn't saying aggressive is just yelling. Aggressive is also the style, as the Geberet said earlier. Geberet Sade said condescending. So subtle, passive aggressive, low acceptance. This involves indirectly expressing frustration or resistance, such as through sarcasm, procrastination, or cutting remarks that can be denied later. This style is insidious, damaging trust, and making it difficult for the recipient to understand what is being asked. Okay, impact of tone. People, especially those feeling threatened, best understand simple, direct statements. So let's see. Now, of course, you all, this again has to do with just communication when it's talking about communicating with people. But at the end of the day, when you're making a post and you're recording yourself, you are addressing it to people, not robots. You're addressing it to living people, to feeling people, people who have many things going on or not much going on at all. And at the end of the day, I believe some of us forget that, because again, like, would you all have a conversation like this to somebody in their face? And a lot of people say, yeah, but that raises stakes. That raises potential violence, because somebody say, get out of my face. Why are you yelling in my face? Again, you all have to see some of the approaches I'm talking about on here. I'm not over exaggerating when I say that I believe the approaches have gotten a little out of hand. And like I said, as a so-called Black community, we have that aggression enough. We're already called and labeled as these different things. I believe the women need to take a more subtle route. We have women and we have men out here who are hurting. We have a lot of elders who have lost trust in this generation because they're saying we've been raised differently, and our morals have changed. You know, you're putting out a message for elders to hear, right? Somebody, grandma, would listen to that and be like, baby, what is that? Why is that young lady yelling so much? Or why is she cussing so much? You know, if I'm putting out some information and it's to a certain group of people, then I can understand that to a certain extent. But if I'm putting out something as a public figure and it's meant to reach all types of people, it shouldn't come disrespectful if an elder watches it. It shouldn't be. And like I said, again, if all groups of people, ages are supposed to listen to this, it shouldn't be too explicit. But we don't, I feel like a lot of times we don't think about that on social media. A lot of people are saying, well, my content's not for children anyway. That doesn't mean children won't come across it. And again, I do believe children should have restrictions and shouldn't just be able to watch everything, but it's the internet. It's the internet. They could come across anything nowadays. So again, I believe that approach matters because I believe it affects how our people perceive how we are when it comes to giving out information. There's this young lady that I like to watch her cook. She doesn't talk much. She's, I believe, somewhere in Dubai. She always has a pretty head covering. She has her husband, I think her sister with her. She almost puts you in the mind of and I believe they're Arabs. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. Like an Arab princess. And all she does, she cooks her food, does beautiful videos. And when she talks, she just talks in her, natural tone. I believe natural tone. And that's what she does, and she's a public figure for that. I feel like a lot of our people feel like we have to get a niche or a niche in talking about the state of our people. But when a lot of our people do it, I feel like there's a lot of hypocrisy in the presentations, because again, you all, this topic can go into so many different ways, because yes, approach matters. There are some people who will share somebody because they're saying the right thing. Meanwhile, in the so-called Israelite community, we try to be careful. I know me and my Ish try to be careful with what we post. And I'm trying to be careful how I say this, because I do know that there are people in different stages of life. There will be a woman who's talking and she's making a lot of sense. But in that video, and some of our people have a tendency to share these videos, and we're striving towards decency and modesty, the woman's cleavage is all out. The only thing you don't see is, certain things, but the cleavage is all out. Like the stomach is out, but she's speaking quote unquote good. And again, she is speaking in a more subtle manner, but I just feel like when it comes to us, our approach in everything matters. Again, my Ish and I were strategic and very careful with things that we share, because we understand what it is we're trying to uphold and what it is we're going after. If I wouldn't dress like that, my Ish wouldn't dress a certain way, then we're careful of what it is that we share, because we don't want people getting the wrong idea. Now, again, when you're out in the public, you can't control what other people are wearing or what other people are saying, but you can control the environment that you're around. And I just believe that we can do both. We can dress with decency and we can talk with decency. And I would really love to see us get back to that place. I know a lot of people are doing it, but predominantly in the forefront, those that are more popular, that are speaking more boisterously, if that's the correct way of saying it, they are getting a lot of attention. And that's also one of my sister and I, our goal is to be a light and be a breath of fresh air, and also just to make sure we're being intentional about our approach, because I think the approach sometimes can be more damaging than it is helpful and confusing. If you all have anything to say on that, any agreements or disagreements, I would love to see them in the comment section. And while you all are at it, please, if you have not already, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you feel the need to share it, please share it. I turn it over to my sister.
Right, Toda. I would say you have definitely said a total mouthful. But I agree. Like you say, our approach, whether it be verbal, or even just our approach, with how we present ourselves. Like say, it's like being able to, I believe, modestly speak, not just with the words that we say, but even just with, how we dress or how we appeal. It's like wanting to have an impact without it being enticing. Being able to, be an encouragement and say things that are encouraging to young women without feeling like, okay, it's kind of half and half. It's like the words make sense, but then it's like, okay, now it's confusing because it's like, follow the words, but do you actually follow the image too? It's like, like you have, what do they say? It's like, it's like taking the message without the messenger. Or something. I mean, it might be a phrase that goes that way, but I feel like that's kind of contradictory. It's like the messenger, I believe, is also important. How you present yourself as a messenger is important. The example that you set, is important. That approach, like I feel like if it's an encouraging video, whether it's from a man or a woman, if it's like if you can't really have if you can let people hear the words that somebody is saying, but you don't want them to see the video because it's like, well, this person isn't dressed the best, so let me not, or maybe they are expressing things in a very colorful manner, and it's just like, well, they're saying things that make sense, but it's kind of, crude in the approach. Like again, it makes things feel like, okay, should I share this person what they're saying, or or should I not, So I think that approach, it does matter as well. Now you also can read the comment.
Oh, you can read it. You can read it.
All right. Ima Sade says, Khan says, people listen to what you say, but also watch what you do, including how we dress and carry ourselves.
King. And we just want to, just reset a standard that has been put out here. A lot of those that were before us, even those that were not in this walk, and I don't really know, I would say prior to this walk and even in this walk, as far as those that were freedom fighters or those that were, what's the word? I'm looking for the word. Those that were spokesmen for the so-called Black community. I know that there were Israelites that were in that place, but some of the people that come to mind that were spokesmen for the so-called Black community, Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Claude Anderson, Joyce DeGruy, a lot of these people were in place to talk about things that would liberate us mentally, because a lot of us were in the state that we were in because it was still mental bondage. And Frances Cress Welsing was one of the people that stood up a lot for so-called Black men, so-called Black women. And she did it in a way that was modest. She had the sweetest little light voice, but she could debate with the best of them. And that is what she was known for, standing up. And I just look at that standard that was there, that now is gone from this young woman, and she did this even in her 60s and 70s, if I'm not mistaken, up there in her beautiful afro, not dressing provocatively. And she just told the truth. I don't believe she had an outside motive other than telling the truth and liberating our people. To now we have women that are speaking really good. But like you say, the image, to just be quite honest, you can't tell that they're about to go to the club or if they're about to go to a presentation. And image does matter because there's a standard for going to the courthouse. There's a standard for going to the courthouse. You call that judge your honor. That is the judge. They make you not make you say certain things, but there's a certain standard they set in that courtroom, and they don't have their chest out. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them do yell, and some of them I find very annoying to listen to. Really, I do. But the standard is there. And again, in that position, they're in a position of power. So if they are yelling or even argumentative, it can be dismissed as, well, I'm the judge, I'm doing my job. I don't see that all the way across the board, because there can be bias, and there has actually been reports of bias in the courthouse when they have those positions. But I say that to say there's still a standard there. They're still going to dress a certain way. And I just believe that, predominantly talking about the so-called Black community, we have to be aware of this. You know, like my sister said, the message is sounding good, but it's kind of confusing, because you're telling me I'm supposed to present myself a certain way in speech and in character, but my dress is going to make people have a perception of me. And are we promoting our young ladies to just have a mind of a wife and then dress like, I'm not going to even put the word out there, but just dress any kind of way? That doesn't add up. And as a community, I think we give a lot of these people attention, and we do give them a lot of pass, you know, and some can say, well, they're not in this walk. So, and I can get that part, but we do give a lot more other individuals a pass than we do those that are public figures. And I would say we need more public figures, as far as those that are saying positive things and it within their lane. Because I know not everyone is a a teacher, you know, as a cane, a prince, chief prince, all those type of things. But if you have a gift and you have something that you want to do, I would say share it. And that way we can have more circulation of righteousness to share. A lot of times we have to share other stuff, because I believe that we are running out of content as far as positivity and righteousness to share and circulate. And that's a problem. We should have more things that can circulate that are from our people. That's why it's in my desire to do more content concerning that. That's why my sister and I are here. We're doing this type of content because we want to show that there is a righteous entertainment that we can have. There's righteous discussions that we can have. We don't have to call anybody out of their name. We can still be who we are. Again, we are wives, we're daughters of the Supreme King, we're daughters, we're sisters, we're these things, and we just want this to be something that's normal. We want it to be normal. And with that, we take seriously our approach when we do this, because we know what it is our community and just so-called Black people in general have gone through. Sometimes you might be the softest voice, you might be the kindest person that somebody has come in contact with. And I mean genuinely kind, not just giving you a in person or just giving you a quick smile, but you might be one of the kindest, genuine people someone comes in contact with. And if you are B'nai Yisrael, that's even more of a blessing, because we were supposed to be a light anyway. And if we're not doing that, and if we're not even perceived as that, that is a problem. And with that, I yield. Anyone have any more comments? Or my sister, do you have anything to say to that? And after that, we can go to another icebreaker.
Kane. So I will share something that took place with my Ish. I think about 2 weeks ago. Where he works, he has, he works and he wears uniform, so he doesn't have like the fringes or ziziot on his clothing. And while he was out there, an elderly guy approached him, and I think he said he had Hebrew on his clothing, and he went to my Isha. He was like, it's like Shalom. And he was like, Shalom was like, the Hebrew. And it's like almost like asking him what would make him, approach him if he wasn't really wearing anything that looked like it was really, again, with his work, he has uniform. So it's like, it's not anything that's really just jumping out and saying, Hebrew. And so, he went to him and he told him, and he was like, asking him, he was like, what made you, think I knew the Hebrew? And he was like, the light, I could see it. And he said his son was in the car and was looking at him smiling. And he was like, he could see the light of the Most High in him. And like that definitely, like that touched my heart. He's out there again. And I am, giving honor and, definitely praising the Most High for Maisha. And again, just the example, I've heard him be able to, be out there to the people that need help. And he was like, I can see the light of the Most High. And he's like, I can see it. He's like, it's like, you're just shining. And that had me just smiling when he came home and told me that, because I was like, that, that's one of my prayers is like, being able to, have that sensitive approach, being able to be in a place where it's like, even I will say being in a place where you are approachable, where people can look at you and be like, you know what? Their approach will come and it like, they will have a gentle approach, even though they might have something going on. And so, I just the thought, of does approach matter? And it does matter, even if it's just a smile, if it's just like, I would even say greeting people first. I feel like that is like a gentle approach, because that, hey, how you doing? For some people means, let me tell you what's going on with me because I am not okay, and so, I definitely believe, that approach matters, because say you don't know exactly what people are going through unless they say it, unless people are putting it out. And I feel like even when you do know what people are going through, still having that approach, I feel like makes a world of a difference. So I definitely wanted to share that because that made me smile. That made me happy. So
that is good. That is good. And yeah, so even with approach, like at work, or like say approach across the board does matter, because for some people, that'll be a lasting impression. Again, if you are having a bad day, that's understood, but also as adults, mature adults that understand that we still have to deal with life, you still can't put your bad day on other people you're working with. That might make it worse, because they're gonna be like, I didn't do anything to you. I don't even know you, so you have to still be cautious in that, because you might put that bad day on the wrong person. Of course, you can still say things authoritatively and stand up if someone's doing something wrong, but we're talking about approach, and you're the one that has the power to set the atmosphere for that day. I was in a store the other day, and I was in line with the older couple, and I think just it was a lady, and I was in the line with the older couple, and the young man was at the cash register. He greeted the old couple. He was like, "Hello, how y'all doing?" And I was like, "We doing good. How you doing?" And again, sometimes we could take the approach, not the approach, the outward appearance. We could look at the outward appearance and just perceive something to be that's not it, right? Because again, like we talked about, everybody doesn't dress the same. Some people dress differently. And I say that because the individual had like a lot of just chains. They had like a lot of chains, not gold chains, but I don't know. I just could see. I was at the cash register, a lot of chains on their neck, and they said, he said, "I'm doing well." He was like, "Thanks." He was like, he just went into talking to the people and talking to everybody in the line. He was like, "I feel like when we come to work, we shouldn't take how our day has been with us." He said, like, if I had a bad day before I got here, he said, I shouldn't bring that here. He said, I feel like if I bring my bad day with me, it'll only make my day go by slower. He said, so when I'm at work, I just try to keep I can't remember how he said, I try to keep a good spirit or something in that nature. I mean, I wasn't looking like that, but I'm like, I don't know if this individual is an Israelite or what, but I'm just like, we should have some type of light. We should have something that sets us apart. And even when it comes to the speech or conducting ourselves, it should be something that's different. Of course, his ethnicity, it was so-called Black, but as far as like knowledgeable of being an Israelite, I'm not sure. Then go into conversation. But the fact that that young man was able to say, I'm at work, but I'm not going to bring a bad day with me. Said we can all use some type of positivity. That shows us something right there. If other people can do it and they have to work through this, then how much more we, especially if we're awakened and we understand what we're supposed to do, how much more can we try to make sure I can't take this load with me to work? I can't take it with me. I'm not saying you can pray it off or anything like that, but if you go in with knowing the Supreme King that you serve. If you go in knowing that Supreme King, I am living this life righteously, I am living it pure before you, I know that you're my strength even when I don't have it. We have to take that approach in life, not just approach on social media, but we have to take that approach in life, because when the cameras aren't there, when nobody's there, when we might be by ourselves, that's a lot of times where it counts. That's where it counts a lot. So the approach in all this matters, you all. And again, through this, we're just praying that in all these things we can be a light. We can be a light, because I think we could all say and agree that we need it. That we need it. Let me go ahead and get this shared on the screen. Shared on the screen. All right, we are on to the next thing. Toda Rabah.
Hallelujah, Toda.
Hallelujah. It says, ooh, something you learned this week, and then a strange habit that you have. Something that you learned this week, and then a strange habit.
I got to think of that one. Something that I learned this week. Well, I don't know if it counts. I learned some new words in Hebrew.
So good.
I learned some new words in Hebrew. So that's what I have for that one.
Totally old. All right. So new words in Hebrew. Let's see now. And then a strange habit that you have. I'll start with a strange habit that I have. So sometimes when I drink water through the water bottle, I don't know why, but you know how people say double tap. I drink like this. Like I take 2 sips of my water. I don't know why I do that, but drinking my water out of a smaller water bottle, I take 2 sips at a time sometimes. I think that's a strange habit.
I'm trying to think of a strange habit that I have. I do know another strange habit that you have. I don't know if you would like for me to share it. Like, it's not bad. Can I share it?
I don't know.
It's not bad. It still has to do with food.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I know what she's about to say. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh. So I have to remember a strange habit that I have. But I think it's like, I don't want to say it's like a bad stranger or anything. It's like an interesting habit that my sister has, that before she eats her food, she has to take she has to smell everything before she eats it.
If we could take it just a second. All right. Shalom, shalom, and Toda Rabah for listening in. And yes, go get that work in.
Oh, yes. Enjoy. Enjoy
Yes.
your homestead. That sounds wonderful. Wonderful. And Toda for tuning in. Toda Rabah. But yes, smelling her food, it doesn't matter what it is. She can already know what it smells like, and she will smell it before she eats it. And I will sit there and watch it. And I was like, you literally smell everything before you eat it.
Yeah, I don't know why I do that, but I think it was said that my grandmother on my late Ames side, she used to smell her food before she ate it. And y'all, I never witnessed her do that, but that's just something that I do. It just feels normal when I get my food to smell it before I eat it, I don't know. It's like a taste test before I actually taste it. So that is something I've been doing for years. And let's see, something I learned this week. I know I learned something this week. Just let me meditate on it. Now we got to think of your strange habits.
That's what I was trying. Like, I don't want to say, I'm just putting you out there. I'm trying to think, what is a strange habit that I have? I'm trying to think. What is? I know I have some. I'm not gonna say like I don't. I do have some. What is a strange habit? I don't know. I have one. I have to think on it. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I'll think on it too.
You want to find one?
Yeah, I know it was weird because like you used to scratch your nose a certain way. I remember you used to do that. I'm like, what?
I used to double blink. Like I used to blink twice. Like I'll do like a hard blink. I was like, "Did your eyes itch?" And I was like, "No." It's like, "Why are you blinking like that?" It's like, "I don't know."
Oh
I
my
just
goodness.
blinked.
I remember I used to do that too. I had to get out of that because if you don't break that habit, you'll be doing it and you just be
Yeah,
blinking
but
for
I
no
did.
reason.
Even if my nose didn't itch, I used to sit and I about rub my nose off my face. It's like, you don't tear it off. So
You would
that
you would
was
just scratch your nose. So weird. I'm like, that is an interesting way. Hold on. I think my connection is acting weird again. So I just turn that off, turn that on. All right. Am I still choppy?
pain a bit.
All right. Wait. All right. It looks a little better. All right. So if I don't have anything about as far as learning something new. I do. I just can't think about it right now. What's your favorite kind of candy?
Ooh.
So mine is nature's candy. And I think my sister knows that one.
Well, I was gonna say tamarinds.
Yeah, it's it. That's it.
Okay.
Because I don't eat candy. I don't eat candy. My favorite candy is nature's candy.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron's.
Yeah. So I was definitely gonna say something in the same category because for me it has to be stuff that's sour. Oh my goodness gracious!
Mhm.
I'm talking about like that mouth-watering sour, like the. I'm over here
Yes.
salivating.
Yeah, when I was younger, lemon heads used to be my favorite.
Yes.
Lemon heads, and what's the other one?
Gummy worms, the sour gummy worms, and then we had gotten a bag of sour gummy worms and gummy bears. We total things up. They were clean. They were kosher. But still with sugar, sour
Still
sugar.
sugar.
We tore them things up. But my favorite kind of candy, because I love chocolate, but I don't count chocolate as being candy because chocolate is food.
Yeah.
Chocolate is food. So you can have chocolate for dinner. I'm joking.
Oh my goodness.
But I would say my favorite kind of candy, like say, is nature's candy, especially, oh my goodness, a good old sour tamarind. I love tamarind. And I like how it's the Spanish candy with the tamarind and the chili, or like the cayenne pepper with it. So it's like
Now
sweet.
that I can't get with y'all. That
I enjoy it.
I've tried it a few times and I'm like, yeah, I can't do it. My and my sister, they love that stuff. They're like, ooh, our candy. And I'm like, have that all to yourself.
Spicy sour. So yes, definitely the sours. Nature's candy.
Absolutely no. All right, let's see. I'll go ahead and stop sharing this. I think it was something. It'll come back to me because I know I learned something. We really went over what really gets on your nerves. All right. Oh, what's your all-time favorite quote? We can do that one. All-time favorite quote.
I would say one of my all-time favorites is I'm stronger today than I was on yesterday, and I'll be stronger tomorrow than I am on today. Is both a quote and an affirmation.
Yeah.
I would say that's one of my favorites because it's like, okay, with moving forward, it's like wanting to just always press to be better. As the days continue to go on, it's like wanting to be better today than yesterday. And it's like whatever mark I missed today, I want to make it tomorrow, hit it. And then it's like, just keep that, keep the train going. So that's one of my favorite quotes and one of my favorite affirmations.
I think I have two in mind. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. Because that quote just tells you, it gives you game on life. Because where purpose is not known, it's inevitable to abuse it, And then what's the other one? What one generation practices in moderation, the next generation practices in excess. That could be good or that could be bad. Again, if one generation is practicing righteousness and within their generation, they're practicing it and spreading it, the next generation will practice it, whether they fall off of it or not. They will be practicing it in some type of way, just certain codes of conduct, morals. We saw that. And then the generation started to practice wickedness and lewdness and looseness and all these other type of things. That's why it's so normal for individuals to go outside dressed a certain way, because it picked up. A lot of people were doing it. One generation was practicing it in moderation, And now people are complaining about it, actually. I don't know if I find that ironic or what, but people are now complaining about how a lot of the women are dressing, and that was supposed to be nipped in the bud. That was supposed to be nipped in the bud when they were younger, And of course, when they get older, it is a little bit harder, but a lot of that's supposed to be nipped in the bud. So yeah, just practicing being generations of, being intentional with our conduct, with our order, with even our approach, because your approach, believe it or not, your approach can turn somebody away or bring somebody closer. And that isn't even to say that it will turn them away from this way of life. It could just turn them away from your method of bringing somebody in, and then they go find somebody else and learn from them. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't mean that, it's the one-stop drop and that's it. No, people cannot like the way you bring forth something. And someone can say, well, what if I'm telling the truth? But the thing is, that's why we have the word hypocrite, because a hypocrite can say something but be doing the complete opposite. So I think that pretty much sums it up. We can't just talk it, but we have to walk it as well. And that's even in our conduct. That's in our conduct. So with that, unless you have some more things to say, I think we're going to go ahead and get ready to end this. You have any more remarks?
Told out to all those that joined in and participated and added your input, or that just sat and listened. I hope you all were able to get something out of it. And I pray it's been impacting and encouraging. And I hope our approach was acceptable.
Game. I like how you put that little cherry on top. Yes, we hope that our approach was a blessing to you all. We pray that something was said that was also meaningful, and that it could resonate within you throughout the week, even just throughout the day, within the hour. That is always our goal, to say something meaningful while yet bringing some righteous entertainment. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close out. Shalom, shalom. Torah, again, thank you, because you didn't have to listen in. All right. Enjoy the rest of you all's day or night. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. I see a dream, that dream is green. And I don't mean material things. Freedom to the land, child, woman, and man. As we take up for what we stand, better days and better nights, as we stand and unite. We're one and the same. Why is it so hard not to point and to blame? Better sheet, get our houses in order, and we'll see the peace. There are steps that we must take if we want to see.
I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us.
The sake of us, the sake of us.
I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. No more failing, telling me beneath. What a beautiful moment, and a sight I can't wait to see. Even if I miss it, at least I wasn't part of the mission. Changing lives of men, women, and children. Our glory goes to He that causes us all to be. And if they're thinking we can, show them that just as long as we stand, a monument. We the people can't be broken as long as we stay focused. I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion across America. Us, the peace rose for the sake of us. For the sake I of see us. My people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America. Us, the peace rose for the sake of us. I see my